Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of this weekend's mega rematch, I should say, the $6 million woman, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, the richest female fight in boxing history. Katie Taylor will earn $6 million when she fights Amanda Serrano this Friday. The rematch of the greatest women's fight of all time will see the participants share the highest purse in women's boxing history. The trailblazing Irish star and the Puerto Rican-born sensation, Brooklyn-based, multi-weight, world champion, hold the previous record from when they met in April of 2022, but will eclipse it this weekend. Their first encounter, a modern-day classic, was the first female fight to top a bill at the famous Madison Square Garden venue and played to a sold-out crowd in front of 20,000 fans in the arena, with a record-breaking 1.5 million tuning in to watch on DAZN. The return is the co-main event with the controversial Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul bout will take place at the $1.2 billion home of the Dallas Cowboys, the 80,000-seater capacity Arlington Stadium in Texas, and will be broadcast on streaming giant Netflix at no additional charge, and thus is available in the hundreds of millions of homes all around the world. Those factors enable Taylor and her dance partner Serrano to receive record high purses and make the bout the richest ever in women's boxing history. In another massive string to Taylor's change the game bow, after transforming the face of amateur boxing and paving the way for women to compete in the Olympics, the Wicklow Wonder has managed to completely transform female professional boxing. It doesn't really get said enough, and it's often downplayed by Americans.
Them especially.
Without Katie Taylor, Clarissa don't get to win 2 gold medals. Katie's the reason they let women box in the Olympics.
They like to either downplay that or ignore it because they don't want to give Katie her flowers. They would rather believe that Clarissa's the face of the sport.
When nothing about the numbers tells that story, and this is a numbers game. Clarissa don't draw more than Katie Taylor. She don't make more than what Katie Taylor makes. Never mind what Netflix is paying her. Katie was already making more than Clarissa, fighting more often than Clarissa.
In better, more historic fights than Clarissa.
Because she's better than Clarissa in every way you can imagine. There were reports of world champions defending their titles for less than $5,000 on small hall shows before Taylor turned over. Now she is commanding millions, and her rising tide has raised the purses of all the other ships in the women's water, Clarissa included. The magnitude of the purse is highlighted further by the fact the sport's other big money woman, Clarissa Shields, has been paid his $1 million.
Who paid Clarissa $1 million?
It was likely Ben Shalom, likely boxer, to get her to come over to have that fight with Savannah Marshall. If she ever made that amount of money, it would have been for that fight, because we know it wasn't at Showtime.
How do we know?
Clarissa said it herself. Showtime was paying her in the neighborhood of $300,000 or just north of $300,000. And when the pandemic hit in 2020, they cut that number in half. That's a part of why she left. She wanted to make more money. She wanted to start boxing on pay-per-view. They told her she doesn't have a big enough following. She ends up doing it anyway.
Did it for the Marie-Eve DeCare fight at Junior Middle.
And that fight didn't sell nothing. It didn't sell anything. I think the first and only time Clarissa has made 7 figures for a fight, it's got to be the Savannah Marshall fight, because Ben Shalom paid to play. The author of this article categorized Clarissa Shields as the other big money woman. She's not the other big money woman. It's Amanda.
The only other fighter in women's boxing that's making the kind of money that Katie makes is Amanda Serrano. Not just from her fight purses, from her endorsements, from her sponsorships. She's making millions.
The story here, the long and the short of it, is I've noticed over time the American media likes to downplay who Katie Taylor is to women's boxing, what she's contributed, what she's done, how that's helped everybody else.
The excuse is that she looks more human in her fights than Clarissa does, but she campaigns in more competitive divisions, densely populated divisions, than Clarissa does. So she's gonna look human.
That she lost to Chantel Cameron, as if losing a fight means you ain't no good. If that's the case, what was Muhammad Ali when he lost to Joe Frazier?
Dumbass.
It's like trying to blot out the sun with your finger, thinking you can blot it out to everybody else. Everybody knows.
Everybody that keeps up with the sport of women's boxing knows Katie Taylor is the GOAT.
I don't care if Clarissa's the one who started saying that or coined the phrase or whatever it is, because what it encompasses and what it means,
Yes.
it applies more to Katie and Amanda than it does to Clarissa.
I don't care if that hurts your feelings. What are the Americans if not glory hogs?
So on the eve of this weekend's mega match, in a fight that I think Katie Taylor might lose, it's a good time to give her her flowers for everything she's done, everything she's contributed. I do not like her chances on Friday.
Now is a good time to show appreciation that she may be nearing the end.
I mean, she's the reason I started watching her, ladies. I kept hearing about her out of the amateurs, and when I saw her,
Wow.
really expand my horizons as a content creator, the horizons of this channel,
Katie doesn't say much.
because her supporters say it for her. If there were anybody in the running for the greatest woman of all times in the sport of women's boxing, it would sooner be Katie Taylor than Clarissa Shields.
Being the greatest of all time is not about having a perfect record.
And it's a lot easier to have a perfect record when you're competing in barren divisions. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, His Excellency Turki Sheikh took to his social media and stated, "Earlier this week, I finalized a deal to acquire 100% of the Ring magazine. And I want to make a few things clear. The print version of the magazine will return immediately after a 2-year hiatus, and it will be available in the United States and the United Kingdom markets. The magazine will be fully independent with brilliant writers and focusing on every aspect in the sport of boxing. We will restore the legacy of the Ring rankings to its old mechanism with a fully independent panel that lives up to Ring magazine's golden era. And we will continue to raise the prestige of the Ring magazine titles, and plans are already underway to have a yearly extravagant awards ceremony to celebrate the very best in the boxing industry. In the coming weeks, we intend to debut a brand new state-of-the-art website and mobile app. We are already in development for a line of Ring magazine merchandise. The Ring magazine will be a fully independent company without any involvement from Riyadh Season. In the end, let's get the Bible of boxing to the heights that it has never seen in the past." Can they do it? Print has been a dying medium for so many years now. I mean, not exclusive to Ring magazine or anything that's happening inside of boxing, outside of boxing, in a very general sense. People don't read as much as they used to, and if what you're talking about is a paperback, an actual physical magazine, I don't know how well any of the old periodicals are doing. Not just the boxing stuff, but what about People Magazine or Cosmopolitan, Vogue?
Sports Illustrated.
This is a digital world, a brave new world, where messages are carried out primarily through electronics, your smartphone, your laptop, your tablet.
The mobile app I like.
I really like that idea, the idea that you have an app that you can go to, as apps are all the rage in this digital world, this brave new one, to where you can go on there, look at Ring Magazine's rankings, and look at the existing boxing schedule that is updated regularly. I think that would help a lot.
He bought it off of Oscar.
Veteran boxing scribe Mike Kopinger said Oscar De La Hoya has sold the Ring magazine, the boxing publication he purchased way back there in 2007, and which has been around since 1922. The Roaring 20s.
Jesus Christ, that's before World War II and the Great Depression.
So I don't know how far Turkey can get in terms of the actual magazine, the physical magazine, and printing copies of it that will be made available in the United Kingdom and the United States. It's the mobile app where I think he can find the most success because everything is an app now.
The problem.
Are you going to charge people for using the app, and what are you going to charge them? Since people can get their boxing news and their boxing articles, all of that, free of charge. Via YouTube,
Content creators,
freelance journalists that conduct their own interviews, Marcos Villegas, the delicious Michelle Joy Phelps, the even more delicious Cynthia Kinte,
if it's about getting your boxing news,
the balding Rob Tebbett, Charlie Parsons, Umar, those people,
Sean Zattel,
that before you entertain the idea that you're going to charge people to get their news from Ring Magazine, you must consider that they can get that same news free of charge somewhere else. So how do you turn over a profit? Ads might help.
how do you get people to use the app?
Maybe you make the app free of charge and make the money off the ads featured when you use it.
I'm just troubleshooting this thing, but it's not my place. It ain't my magazine. Those are just some ideas.
From the consumer, as I am an avid consumer of all things boxing. I am an existing customer. And one thing you really don't get on Boxing Scene or Bad Left Hook or some of these other places is a comprehensive schedule of fights for the month and for the year if possible.
I'm not just talking about the men's fights either. The women's fights too. That needs more coverage.
We'll see what innovations, if any, they come up with, but I do like the idea of an app that you can download to your smartphone or smart television.
And what about the writers? The actual boxing scribes, the pundits? Who's going to be on the editorial panel?
I don't know if Turkey wants to go a traditional route. Maybe he hires Fat Dan or Jake Donovan,
I don't know.
Ryan O'Hara, or does he have a different team, different group of writers in mind altogether? I don't know.
Oscar sold it.
Being honest, he wasn't doing much with it to begin with. Ring Magazine has a YouTube channel right here on YouTube, and they don't seem to upload much content. I mean, they seem to have a good number of subscribers, but in terms of metrics and how many views they get for a video, it's not much.
YouTube is a lot more competitive if you're talking about trying to be a news source.
What's supposed to make people go to Ring Magazine's YouTube channel over someone else's, say Boxing Social or IFL?
There are so many content creators covering the sport now, more than there ever were.
The basic idea is you need to make the Ring Magazine experience different to what other experiences are out there, a different way to deliver the same information, the same news, perhaps a better way, and I don't know how they're gonna do that.
Titties.
A little eye candy never hurt anybody, I suppose. That's a route they can peruse. But I ain't gonna rack my brain over it because there are people actually getting paid right now to figure this out, so let them figure it out and we'll see how we like it.
I do think Turkey will do more with the Ring Magazine brand, Ring Magazine, than Oscar De La Hoya was doing with it. I don't know how much of any attention Oscar was pouring into that periodical.
I think Turkey just has a lot more passion, and what he wants to do is coming from an earnest place.
Good intentions.
A good place for the betterment of the sport, so we'll see what he comes up with. We'll see what they can cook up now that Ring Magazine is under new ownership. And finally, in men's lightweight news, assistant coach Kenny Ellis, assistant coach to Gervonta Davis, must have caught wind of all the stuff that Keyshawn has been saying, and he took to his Instagram stories, as he often does, saying, even when he loses against Gervonta Davis, Keyshawn knows it'll be his biggest payday, so he's trying to stir everybody away from talking about him fighting Andy Cruz, because he knows Andy Cruz will blow his shot at Gervonta Davis, just like he blew his shot at the Olympic gold.
Deflection.
The casual fan doesn't really know what's going on. I hope the people of Norfolk, VA ain't fallen for the trickery. I'm sure the real men of Norfolk want Keyshawn to get that smoke back.
You defer to Andy Cruz so that Keyshawn versus your fighter doesn't become a conversation. That's what it is. Kenny Ellis doesn't like the pressure, and this lends credence to the notion of what Keyshawn said a few days ago. Keyshawn said,
He said Kenny Ellis himself instructed him not to call out Gervonta Davis for about a year or so. Why would he do that?
I believe him.
Keyshawn also said that Gilly the Kid was there. He saw the whole thing.
I believe him.
It's the kind of weak shit you can expect from Gervonta Davis, the DEI face of boxing, a DEI cash cow of the lightweight division who doesn't want people mentioning him, doesn't want want people calling him out. His coaches don't want people calling him out. They'll defer to everybody else. But let me ask you a question. Who did Lamont Roach?
Who did Lamont Roach fight to earn a shot at Gervonta? Who did he fight to earn a title shot at 135 that you're fighting him and you're okay fighting him?
So he doesn't have to jump through hoops. He doesn't have to go through an obstacle course. Why?
Because you're not threatened by him.
That's why. But you're threatened by Keyshawn. You weren't threatened by Frank Martin either. That's why you didn't make him jump through any hoops. He didn't have to go through an obstacle course. Neither did Rolly Romero.
And none of the stumble bums you fought.
None of them had to jump through hoops. None of them had to go through an obstacle course. But when the former Olympian, the standout amateur turned pro, a guy at your weight, do you have some kind of problem fighting people at your own weight in your own division? He's only 12-0. What are you worried about?
You just knocked out Frank Martin, so why should knocking out Keyshawn Davis bother you? What are you talking about Andy Cruz for?
Is that how it works now? Keyshawn Davis wants a fight with your fighter so that you can start talking about Andy Cruz? Not even saying he doesn't have unfinished business with Andy Cruz. He does. But what does that have to do with you?
He starts talking about you, so you can start talking about him? Are you scared?
Your coach is. Kenny Ellis is afraid. Kenny Ellis doesn't like the pressure this puts on Gervonta to finally start fighting people.
I said it in my previous video. There are gonna be people that start to turn on Gervonta, not because of anything I or you said, not because we mull over his resume all the time and pick it apart. It's not because of us. It's because Keyshawn is a new kid on the block, and some people might like his energy more than the same old from Gervonta.
Because that's all they ever get from him. The same old, and at some point, people get bored, people get curious when you introduce a new player, a new challenger, a new face who's exciting in his own way.
People are gonna want to know.
Some of them, because that's the effect that a fresh new face has on the landscape. How many excuses are you gonna make? It's not like you fought Devin. It's not like you fought Teofimo. It's not like you fought Shakur, or you're about to. The guys that are further along than Keyshawn, you didn't fight them either.
You're fighting a super featherweight from Pro Box.
But you ain't got no time for a lightweight at top rank who fights on a major platform. Lamont Roach doesn't.
Make it make sense.
Keyshawn ain't gonna get that fight. Not next or after next or after that. In all likelihood, he'll end up fighting Dennis Berenchik for the WBO title next. I think he might win. If he does, he becomes a champion at this weight. Will you fight him then?
Or will you fight Dennis?
Will you fight a 4-0 Andy Cruz since Coach Kenny Ellis brought him up? I mean, you brought him up.
Is Gervonta gonna fight him?
You know the answer. He doesn't want to fight Keyshawn any more than he wants to fight Andy. Any more than he wants to fight Dennis. I've been watching boxing for 63 years, and in all my years, I never saw a guy who needed this much smoke and this many mirrors to stay an unbeaten fighter that it's so obvious what's happening.
It almost isn't boxing. It may as well be scripted.
It's the difference in their philosophy. Gervonta Davis is not a fighter that was built so much as an attraction. That's what they wanted more than anything.
That's what they were going for. They just wanted him to be a draw, whether he's good or not great.
The problem is you're only going to draw so much.
When you have to be that careful, that often, it takes away from what draws people to boxing in the first place.
Now, he may have landed a whale of a fight in Ryan Garcia last year, but it's what I told you. That was the only fight of its kind. There is not another. To make the big money, you're gonna have to risk something. That's with either a Shakur or a Keyshawn, or somebody, something.
But not Lamont Roach.
Not with the Frank Martins of the world. It ain't gonna happen.